And may I ask you, Mr. Vice President, just in follow-up, really to all of three of these questions, because what you've talked about are initiatives that would eventually have to wind up in the Senate. And you were in the Senate for quite a long time. You've experienced Mitch McConnell up close. He comes from a state that has substantial poverty, a southern state where you would think these kinds of programs would be both needed and popular, whether on the environment or whether on economics. He's dead set against them all. How would you get past either a majority Republican Senate in which Mitch McConnell was determined to kill all of these ideas, or even a Mitch McConnell in the minority who repeated the consistent filibustering that happened when you were vice president, and anything that came from the Obama-Biden administration, Mitch McConnell considered dead on arrival?
Joy, I know you're one of the ones that think it's naive to think we have to work together. The fact of the matter is, if we can't get a consensus, nothing happens except the abuse of power by the executive. Zero. Number one. Number two, there are certain things where it just takes a brass knuckle fight. There's no way to do it. And what you do is when they say we're not going to support you, we do what I did last time. I went into 68 races in 22 states, and they were not blue states. They were not blue areas. And guess what? Remember, I got criticized by a lot of you in the press saying we're going to win back the House and win over 40 votes. Well, we got 40 votes back, and we beat people who were, in fact, Republicans with mainstream Democratic people going in and saying, look, this is what they're doing to health care. This is what they're doing to, you have to go out and beat these folks if they don't agree with you, by making your case. And that's what presidents are supposed to do. Persuade the public. Move people as to what's going on. Last point I'll make. Remember with the Affordable Care Act, because everything landed on President Obama's desk but locust at the time, he had no time to explain the Affordable Care Act. Once it got started taken away, all of a sudden we have what we call in Southern Delaware an altar call from all those boys. An altar call saying, oh my God, I'm for health care. I don't want to take away pre-existing conditions. I want to make sure, et cetera. And so you go out and you beat them. You make the case. You make an explicit case, just like we did for the House. I think we can do the same thing for the Senate. Secondly, you got to make it clear to Republicans that you understand on some things there is a rationale for compromise. For example, when we did the Recovery Act, which the president, as you may remember, the State of the Union say, Joe will do the Recovery Act, $89 billion. And it was done without any waste or fraud, 2% waste, fraud, or abuse. What happened there? We didn't have the votes initially. So I went on, I changed 3 Republican votes. Would you try to persuade? Doesn't mean you can do it all the time, but it kept us from going into depression. And so, folks, look, if you start off with the notion there's nothing you can do, well, why don't you all go home then, man? Or let's start a real physical revolution if you're talking about it. Because we have to be able to change what we're doing within our system, because you talk about the creed. We the people, we hold these truths self-evident. We haven't always lived up to that standard, but we've never fully abandoned it. And the moment we abandon it, we lose everything we stand for nationally and internationally in terms of the power of our persuasion. The reason why the rest of the world follows us and we're secure is not because we have the largest military in the world. It's because we not only lead by the example of our power, but the power of our example. And you can shame people to do things the right way.
Bishop Barber has a question.
Yeah, just prior to end this section.